If a man walks in and has not done the work, if a woman walks in and has not done the work, and whatever other binary stuff that people talk about comes in and they have not done the work, guess what? You don't get the fruit. You don't get paid for things that you haven't done. Your excuses remain where they are. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers to the show, think about it. As always, if you enjoy the content of the show, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you have any ideas or advice or want us to do research on a certain topic that might be bothering you or that you might have a concern about or you think is healthy to discuss, please do leave a comment, give us a call, let us know, and we will do our best to bring research in front of you with statistics, with professionals and their work that they've put into the field, and we'll try to conjure all that up together and give you a view and try to bring it into highlight and light for everyone. So, as all of our shows start, today's show starts off with a story as well. Now, the story starts off quite simple. There is a classroom. Usually I give teaching examples because I myself am a teacher. And I think teaching is the main aspect of where most things can be pointed back to and rooted back to. So there's a teacher in class who gives an assignment to his students. Now, after the assignment is given, now this is a marked assignment, so it goes into the report card at the end of the day as well. And one particular student scores an 85 out of 100 in that assignment. Now, a couple of days pass, that student who got that 85 comes back to the teacher to speak to them and says that I'd like to talk about my mark with you. Now, as a teacher, just sidelining from the story, we expect students to come and fight for marks, no problem. We expect students to come and justify how they believe that they should be getting higher marks. We expect students to be disappointed when they don't get the marks that they want or they think they need or deserve. We expect all these things, but there are a few things that we don't expect and that we shouldn't expect and that shouldn't exist. And that is disrespect. You see, in this story, what you can see is that this student who comes to his teacher and talks about his grades says that I want to talk about my mark. And the teacher says, sure, what would you like to talk about? What would you like to discuss? And the student says, I don't think I deserve an 85. And the teacher says, okay, please explain how. Let's take out your assignments, like take a look. Nowadays it's all technology, so the teacher probably opened up their laptop, put it in front of the student and said, this is your assignment. This is the feedback I gave you. This is the rubric or the metric that we're following. And based on this, these are the comments that I made, and this is the mark that you have. So tell me, where can we increase your mark? What can we do for you to make this go higher? The student says, no, I understand that, but 85, it's not good, and I wasn't expecting it. I'm a good student everywhere else. Ask other teachers, ask this. Starts waving here and there, talking about how they feel that whatever the feedback might be, whatever information might exist in front of them, they don't agree with the mark. So then the teacher says, look, I understand that you're upset with an 85, even though an 85 is not a bad mark. If you're in Canada and Ontario, you know that's a level 4 mark. A level 4 is a decent mark. Above 80, 80 to 100 is a level 4 mark. We have 4 levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And all of them are passing levels, by the way. They all go from 50% onwards, or I believe 60% onwards. So the teacher explains that you've actually done a good job with this assignment. These are the points and these are the reasons why you got an 85. So the teacher explains the rationale behind why this student got the mark. So then the student says that, yeah, but I don't think so. It's not fair. Got more marks than I did. XYZ got more marks than I did. And starts raising their intonation, getting into a little bit of a conflict and a little bit of a power struggle now. An argument is about to start. And the teacher notes this, and so the teacher keeps calm, and the teacher says, you may be right that they got more than you, but that's because, according to the rubric, according to everything that we follow, according to the paper or whatever that we have. They deserved that mark. You, unfortunately, you have my sympathy, you have my empathy, you have my advice for other assignments in the future. Come to me and show me before you submit an assignment so we can talk about things in detail. And I can tell you where you stand and what you can do to make sure that your grade comes up. But at this current moment, this grade that has been given to you is not going to change. So the student says that this is so unfair, this is so not good, and leaves the class. At the end of the day, it's probably midday school day, so at the end of the day, that teacher gets a call or a message on their phone from the vice principal to come and meet them and talk to them about something. So the teacher goes to the vice principal, and the vice principal says that you have a student in your class who came in and they made a complaint. And so the teacher's like, okay, what was the complaint about? Oh, apparently the student said that you're not teaching properly, you haven't explained certain concepts to them, and then you put an assignment which is going to be graded towards their report card, and so the students were not ready for it. So what's going on? What's the deal? And so the teacher says, that is not true at all. Any assignment that is given with rubrics, is given with revision material and revision done in class with review. And then ultimately the students do their assignments. So there's nothing that has been done that was unseen or unheard of. And throughout, whenever assignments are set, teachers, and this teacher said that I ask my students to ask me questions if there's any confusion or they require any form of clarification. So then the VP says, oh, they don't seem too happy about their mark. And so the teacher says, you're more than welcome to have a look at their assignment. Have a look at the rubric and the metric that I set for them. Have a look at everything and deduce for yourself. And the VP is like, no, it's okay. And, we've talked about it, but have a look at whatever, you could do. And, the student is facing a lot of stress and trauma nowadays. And so the teacher's like, stress and trauma, is everything okay? And they say, yeah, the students had a very difficult time. He, ever since COVID happened, they were isolated and they had COVID a couple of times, and now they've just come back in. So there's a lot of trauma there, and we need to be able to accommodate them to whatever extent we can. So the teacher says that they have all of our support, but work is work. You do it right. You do it to a certain degree. Based on the quality of your work, you get marks. That's what the rubric is there for. That's what grading is there for. So, conversation ends. The following day, that student's parents come to school, and they have the same complaint. And now the teacher's brought in, and the teacher is sitting down, the VP's there, the parents are there, and the parents are like, my son is very good in all these other classes, and he does this and that, and in your class, ABC got very good marks, ta-da-da got very good marks, but my son did not, what's going on, and da-da-da. So the teacher says that there's a rubric, if you've seen it, because you have access to it as parents. You have access to the learning management system, whatever is online, to have a look at your own child's work. Your child didn't do the work according to the examples that you've mentioned. However, your child is actually a high-achieving student because there's students who've scored 70s and 60s on this assignment. So I don't see this as that much of an issue. We can work together and make sure that he does better in future assignments, but this assignment and its quality of work makes him get an 85. In fact, I have been lenient. And then the teacher points out a few things according to the rubric where the student would have lost more marks, but did not. So there's leniency on the teacher's side. Before the teacher can finish up, the VP stops the teacher and says, do you think we can accommodate him? Bump him up to a 90. Would that be okay with you? Looking at the parents. And next time he's going to do great too. We don't want to ruin the average of the student. What ended up happening is that this teacher told the VP right then and there that if we accommodate everybody, we're not going to have any principals. And that is the story of today. Now, this is a very detailed and small example I gave you, but we're going to expand it into society now. We're talking about accommodation culture. The moral of the story here is that we've started accommodating everything. And because we've started accommodating everything, that doesn't necessarily need to be accommodated. We have no principles left. We've started accommodating so much so that we end up making issues. And these issues increase and they grow out into society because this young student who's in school and his parents can come and fight his battles for him. When this young student goes to university, this will not be the situation. So there will be a huge shock, a metaphoric slap that's going to come across the face because nobody's there to fight their battles anymore. Your parents cannot go to a professor and ask them to increase a mark or decrease a mark or do whatever. Unless we don't know how universities are going to be in the future, but I hope they're not like this. Similarly, when they go into the working field, when that student goes out and gets a job and is finally a working professional, if they aren't able to do an assignment well, or they get a project to do, or they have some work to do and they don't do it to the same capacity or quality as other colleagues, they can't bring their parents in to fight for them. No manager is going to say that, can we accommodate this employee? That's not going to happen. The corporate environment completely flips and changes. This accommodating culture that we're talking about accommodates everything except the things that should be accommodated, the things that should be focused and highlighted. You have a student in class, or you have somebody standing in a line at a bank, or you have somebody standing outside Service Ontario, Service Canada, you have somebody standing in some official setting in a hospital, screaming, yapping, yelling, and not being professional with anything at all. They will be accommodated for some reason. Unfortunately, the person who had the discipline to muster this up and cope with things will never be accommodated. That is a message that is being sent out today in today's society. If you have the courage, if you have the mentality, and if you have the strength to cope with issues, whether you have trauma where you were isolated, where you haven't met your friends, where your parents might be going through a divorce, where your kids might be having issues, where somebody might be terminally ill in your family, or you've lost someone, and you're coping with it by being quiet, trying to be strong for your family, being strong for yourself, and still moving forward, no, sir, you will not be accommodated. That is the message we are sending out by accommodating and making this woke culture of today. You see, if a child walks in and has not done the work, if a man walks in and has not done the work, if a woman walks in and has not done the work, and whatever other binary stuff that people talk about comes in and they have not done the work, guess what? You don't get the fruit. You don't get paid for things that you haven't done. Your excuses remain where they are because they're excuses. But today's society has caused us to accommodate these people, has caused us to accommodate these situations where people have a bunch of excuses and somehow you have to accommodate. And the person who was quietly taking the hit was not. So we don't go out of our way to accommodate people. We have issues in society. We have binary, non-binary issues in society. Whether we have birthing people or women or mothers in society. We're focusing so much on the aesthetics of society, which have ruined the very core of society. And that is the issue at hand today because of accommodation culture. We have to move beyond this now. Now, there was a time when we would accommodate everything that was meant to be accommodated, such as principles. If people had principles, we would accommodate them. If someone was religious and they had a religious expectation or they had to do a certain practice, we would accommodate that. That's fine. Some of these things still exist in society, but some of them don't anymore. We're expected to be woke. We're expected to be accepting of everything. But if we're accepting of everything, then if my opinion differs from yours, you should be able to accept my opinion as well. We can say that we agree to disagree or we agree to have different opinions, but no. My opinion will be judged, yours will be accommodated. Or yours will be judged and mine will be accommodated. The sheer hypocrisy within the system today has caused a new generation to have birth. This generation is the generation of confusement. Not confusion, not being confused, confusement. This is a new generation. Because this generation does not know what they want because they were never taught what they should want in society. You see, as we grow up as men, or as women, or as girls and boys in society, we're told certain things are our responsibility. Whether it comes down to homework that we have to do, assignments that we need to do, projects that we need to take care of, the dishes that we have to clean at home, the laundry that we have to do, our part or our end of the chores, or whether we have to go and face the world outside and do something that plays a role in community. Nowadays, that is not part of the equation anymore. What has happened is that people are not taught what they're supposed to do, what their responsibilities are, because they're afraid that this child or this person is going to talk back, make an issue out of it, and their issue will be accommodated and the work will never get done. Thus, you have teachers in school who give away grades, not because the students deserve them, but because the system has failed them. You have people and kids who get into honors classes, not because they deserve to go into honors classes, but because their parents are complaining. You get to see people who end up getting their way through a traffic ticket, or when they go in because they're shouting at an airport so they get to go first in line or whatever, because they create drama and people want less drama and they just want to accommodate them quickly. What this has done is it has made everything aesthetic. What does that mean? So when a core of society comes in, we talk about friendship, relationship, parents, children, spouse, family. These relationships are very important. They are the foundations of what we rely on and what we depend on and how we grow out of our shells and then we become individuals of our own. They have been compromised. How so? Kids go to school and they're told ideas by their teachers in schools nowadays and district boards, and they aren't even taking permission from the parents at home. So the parents have no idea. There's no communication of what is being taught in terms of political correctness or ideology or something that's new in this culture today that somehow needs some form of highlight. These issues that exist in society today are only ruining the core of society and making everything around us aesthetic and materialistic. So people don't have relationships anymore. People have contracts and encounters. Encounters means when you meet somebody and you deal with them in a certain way. That's it. An encounter used to be something where people used to meet, they had an encounter. If it was negative, a negative relationship would grow out of it. If it was positive, a positive one would grow out of it. But nowadays people keep it to encounter. There's no such thing as having a relationship. And let's make no mistake, this has made our society sadistic. Sadistic means that if someone else is going through an issue, we don't care, as long as it doesn't happen to us. If it happens to us, then Cry Me a River sort of situation starts. A sob story becomes up. But we don't have empathy for others. Empathy is lacking. A lot of people, whether it be Simon Sinek, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, whether it be people of today, scholars of Islam such as Umar Suleiman who try to talk about religion and try to talk about beautiful things around us. Whether we see people who are learned when it comes to Noam Chomsky, who's an authority of education and linguistics in particular when it comes down to it. When you have people who've written down books and course books, whether it be Robert Pattinson, whether it be Vivian Cook, and all these different authors and people who spend decades on education and how to make a society more independent. The only thing we've become is we've become extremely dependent, thinking we're independent. Why? Because we think when we shout, things are going to work our way. Well, guess what? When you shout, you're telling people that you're not mature enough to handle a situation. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and the solutions, hopefully, fingers crossed, inshallah khair, after the break. Stay tuned. Think about it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the show. Think about it. We left off talking about this dilemma of accommodation culture. This culture and this society and today's generation has caused people to lose principles and be accommodating of everything. You see, the difference why most of us, alhamdulillah, me, myself, I'm a Muslim. And in my community and most of our viewers, inshallah, I hope are people of faith. The reason why we have faith is because it helps us become more disciplined. See, if you don't have discipline and you're okay going out, eating all kinds of meat, drinking all kinds of drinks, and doing whatever you want to, thinking that there's no restriction in life, then there is no restriction. You lose yourself to something meaningless. Having discipline actually helps you grow. Think about it. If you want to go to the gym and build muscle, what do? You have a discipline of how much time you're going to spend at the gym, what type of a diet you're going to be, intaking, how much cardio you're going to do, how your weights are going to increase, how many reps you're going to do, how many sets you're going to do, etc., etc., etc. If you say, no, I'm going to do everything, I want to have a big body and I want to become really strong and have shapes and be fit, it doesn't work that way. Discipline is required to achieve anything. And that's what we're compromising by accommodating everything. We're letting go of discipline, we're letting go of principles. There was a time when talking back, when someone was disappointed in you and they were telling you something, or they were giving you advice, or they were at a hike of emotions and they were sharing this with you, and you would have to be quiet and listen to them, and you know that now is not the time to talk. Nowadays, replying back and talking back at that moment is called leadership. Wow! Pathetic and stupid. Pardon my language, but that's the word, that's the best word that fits it, for the lack of a better term. The best thing I can say is that's stupid. Talking back when someone is giving you advice or expressing disappointment in you is when it's a learning curve for you. If you reply back at that moment, the only thing that you've done is shown disrespect. The only thing that you've done is shown immaturity. The only thing that you've done is shown that you can't reflect and think about the mistakes you've made. This is why justifications have started now. Everyone who does anything, anyone who has any opinion, there's a justification behind it. What's the justification? Whether it makes sense or not, it's a justification. People stand up and throw all kinds of vocabulary and terms out there. They don't even know what they mean. People want to have a belief just because they want to feel like they belong. Yet they don't. They go around accepting everything until nothing accepts them. You can be accepting of everything, but then nothing will be accepting of you. And that is why you need discipline. That is why you need to go back to the basics. And that's what we can do to make a better society. Go back to the basics. Back to the basics means we need to teach children how to respect. We need to teach adults how to respect. We need to teach young people how to respect. If they're in school right now, we need to teach them what respect means. This is a part of life skills. Life skills isn't only opening up a phone, looking at the motherboard, putting it back together. That's cool, that's awesome, it'll help you on a rainy day. Opening up a computer and a CPU, fine, that's wonderful. But learning how to respect people is how you create relationships, communication, and build character. That is how you're going to get respect when you grow up. That is how people are going to start trusting you. And if you ever want to be a businessman or do good in your field, that is how it will happen. If you become a doctor one day out of going to medical school and somehow getting through it, and then you go into a hospital and you scream about every time you have an opinion about something, that's not going to get you a promotion. It's not going to make you heard. The only thing it's going to do is make people think less of you. Simple. That's what's going to happen. We need to go back and start teaching people accountability. So when someone does something wrong, you need to show them the consequence of what that is. We're taking that away. The same example with the teacher and the student, 85%, accommodate. We're taking away consequences of not, work that didn't have the same quality. And the science behind it is so clear. People have been talking about the science behind it since the 1960s. That if you value people who have not given you quality, then the people who do give you quality stop giving you quality. They feel demoralized. They feel like our quality is of no purpose. And so the system breaks. And so we're at the very pivotal moment right now. We're probably at the elastic limit of society as I speak right now in 2023, where our issues are so absurd that he, she, they, them, shim, him, zer, zem, vum is our issue. Rather than people who are dying, making food banks, looking at inflation take place, trying to come together as a community and build a society that's more sustainable, working towards making sure that people have jobs, working towards making sure that people who have skills get skilled work and get more training on skills, work towards making sure the world is moving towards something better. Yet no, we're focused so much on aesthetics and we're worried about men and women giving birth, the most stupidest and absurd conversation people can have, that we've taken away from principle, we've taken away from our discipline, and we've taken away from our religion. Subhanallah. So what do we need to do? The answer is simple. Are you ready for it, though? We need life skills to be taught. Students at school should know what expectations are. There are 3 types of expectations. One is when you expect something from other people. That's the wrong type of expectation to have. If your friend is going out and they say that they're going to go to Timmy's and Tim Hortons and they're going to get themselves a coffee, what do you want? And you say, get me an ice cap. And they forget to bring you one. You've opened room to have disappointment when you have an expectation from somebody. Because maybe they forget. And maybe they genuinely forgot. But then you let that ruin your relationship with that person. The second type of expectation is when others expect from you. Now, of course, there's a different version of this available, of a variety of versions. One is from your parents, your teachers, who have expectations which are of positivity from you. The other is when you reverse the role. You're going out and you're going to get coffee and someone expects you to get them something too and you forget, genuinely. So that type of expectation is wrong as well. There's a third type of expectation, and this is the only expectation that is actually accurate and good to go, and that is when you expect from yourself. Because even if you let yourself down, you don't ruin a relationship with yourself. And you can control yourself as well. Of course, you can push yourself really hard, true. People go into depression, true. But it's controllable rather than having multiple assets and multiple things coming towards you. And knowing when to take the hit. So when somebody is talking to you, somebody of authority, a parent, a teacher, a supervisor, a CEO, a manager, someone who is an older brother or a sibling, an uncle, an aunt, a grandfather or grandmother, when they're expressing disappointment, the only reason they express disappointment is they know that you can do better. They know that you are better. And that's why they express disappointment. Don't talk back. And listen. Because if you talk back, it means you've learned nothing. And you are immature. Number 2 is when someone has a hike of emotions. When someone is very angry and they're talking to you, very depressed when they're talking to you, when there's a negative emotion out there, do not, for the love of God, respond. That is talking back. These are situations when we call them talk back. It's not you being a leader. It's not you practicing your freedom of speech. It's you practicing being an idiot. Pardon my language, but that's true. So don't talk back at these moments, because that is a sign of disrespect. Learn to take the hit when you have to. It's an important part of growth. And being the last to speak, now, make sure you get everybody's point of view on board before yours comes out. Because if you're the first to speak and you've said what you had to say, then you don't care about what other people say because you've done your bit and you're done and you're good to go. No, that's not how it works. Being an actual advantageous member of society is when you hear everybody out, you make sure you understand them, and then you give your opinion or an idea on whatever situation it is. And that's a sign of leadership, guys. That's a sign of leadership. And we need to, first and foremost, after all this is said and done, we need to be able to reflect and disconnect. Reflect on what you've done and reflect on what you've said. Every day when your day ends, reflect on everything you've done that day and reflect on what you did well, what you could have done better, and then think about how you could have done it better. And the next time something of that sort happens, how will you do it better? That's how you make plans of growth. That's what reflecting is. And disconnect. Disconnect is whenever you're about to enter into a situation where, let's say, you're not mature enough for your feelings to actually cope with an issue or a situation. And you know that you're going to lose it, and ego is going to become an issue, and you're going to have a back and forth, and then a power struggle and toxic environment is going to grow. At that moment, step down, step aside, recollect your thoughts. Make sure that you understand what's happening. Don't let emotions get the best of you. So basically, today's society is too accommodating, too emotional, and too woke. God help us. If you have any other opinions and ideas that could help out, then great. And if you don't see a societal problem nowadays, it's time for you to reflect and disconnect. And that's about it. May God help us all, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow His endless blessings upon us. And for all of those people out there who do hold on to discipline and principles, who do hold on to faith, who do hold on to all these things that help them progress in life, that help them cope with things. And they might not be getting that light and they might not be getting that acceptance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely. And don't worry, our term and our goal is long term. These are short-term battles and victories. They're not going to get them anywhere. We've got the gold at the end of the tunnel, or at the end of the rainbow. And we can see light at the end of the tunnel. Think about it. Have a great day, inshallah. Have a great week, inshallah. We'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.